This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2 3-page essays on the themes of masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 500 that are entitled My Masculist Hatred of Suzanne Vencker. This is part 2. Carrying straight on. So, to masculists, Suzanne Vencker, given what she said above, especially in the italicized text above, is obviously a proponent of fluffydom, and hence is to be hated by the masculists. She is proposing manslavery. She expects the man, the husband, to pay for her debts, to work for her, to pay for her. This attitude not only enrages masculists, it is the root cause of masculist hatred of fluffies, since it leads to the fluffy feminist hypocrite genocider dominated divorce courts, which financially massacre and destroy the lives of one father in 4. Masculists have an even greater hatred of fluffy feminists, who are bad enough that they are fluffies and hence manslavers, but are also hypocrites, since they want equal rights with men in the parliaments, but reject equal obligations with men to share equally the burden of earning the living by bothering to get a career-competent education so that they can become FIPs as adults and earn good money so that they don't parasite off the labour and money of a man, manslaving him for decades of his life, which is a major gender crime committed by her against him, which makes her hated by the masculists, who aim to wipe out such women from the face of the earth by totally ignoring them, spitting at them, and if a sex war comes, by masculist soldiers going out into the streets and simply shooting them. The masculists have a lot of work to do in forcing women to fib up, since in today's world, masculists estimate that about 80% of young women at the critical age of 16 in high school choose to become fluffy crappers, choosing to study fluffy crap majors that will cause them to become fluffies as adults and then expect to parasite off the money of a man, thus making these women manslavers. Fluffy feminists are worse than just hypocrites. They've taken over the divorce courts and made them so toxic for men that in many countries now 2/3 of young men refuse to marry and reject paternity, since they refuse to face a 1 in 4 chance of having their kids ripped away from them in a fluffy feminist controlled divorce court, have his house taken from him, half his stuff, half his wealth, forced to pay child support to his kids whom he will barely see, and often forced to pay alimony for the rest of his life, with no moral nor legal obligation on his fluffy ex-wife to fib up and stop parasiting off his money after the divorce the way she did before the divorce. Millions of men are now having their masculist and MGTOW, that's men going their own way, consciousnesses raised, and refuse to have anything to do with fluffies whom they see as vermin, immoral, parasitic, manslaving vermin, to be wiped out as punishment for expecting to manslave a man for decades of his life, a hugely greater gender crime against a man than even rape is against a woman. To have your masculist consciousness raised is essentially to see fluffydom as manslavery, and hence as something to be hated. Vencker is a manslaver. She advocates young women to be fluffies and hence manslavers. Vencker and women like her are the enemies of the masculists, who will be killed by masculist soldiers if a sex war comes, given that the fluffy feminists are indirectly wiping out whole populations due to the birth rate crash that they have caused by their control of the divorce courts. Peoples go to war when their very survival is threatened. The fluffy feminists are wiping out whole populations, so have to be stopped with bullets if necessary. Before such a drastic step is taken, The masculists will be pushing very hard for the fipping of women, the men-fairing of the gender laws, especially in the divorce courts, the legislation of the para, that's paternity rejection right, the creation of gender equality committees in the parliaments that consist half of female feminists and half of male masculists, so that the gender issues of both sexes are dealt with equally, which certainly does not happen today. If you're a masculist and some fluffy expresses an opinion similar to Vencker's above, then explode in masculist hatred at her, telling her that she is a manslaver and that may get her killed. Tell her that manslavery is a far greater issue than was Negro slavery, and that Negro slavery was the root cause of the US Civil War. If the gender laws are not soon men-faired, then there will be a sex war, and fluffies and fluffy feminists will be killed. If you don't see manslavery as slavery, then you have not thought the issue through. What is slavery? It's working for someone else without being paid. That is what fluffies do to men for decades of their lives. They enslave men. They are manslavers and hence slavers, and hence are hated by the masculists who aim to wipe them out. Once you have had your masculist consciousness raised, then whenever you hear some fluffified opinion expressed by some fluffified female, then explode at her, express your hatred of her, scare the shit out of her by giving her a masculist tirade, making it very clear in her mind that if she expects to enslave a man, then that is a war issue to masculists. Tell her that if she doesn't fip up, then she will not get a man, and hence no kids, no love, no sex, and that she'll be cast out of society that becomes ever increasingly masculist in its attitudes, including female masculists who agree with the major masculist arguments. A few years from now, there will be so many hateful masculists that women will become truly fearful that a new gender political religion has infected men that is causing fluffies to quake in their boots, and rightly so. Fluffies are vermin. Fluffies are hated. Vencker is a fluffy. Vencker is hated. I'm a masculist, so I hate Vencker. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Author of the book Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Manslaves to Women, an e-textbook of 500 plus masculist flyers for men's studies courses, freely downloadable in Microsoft Word format from my website. Ciao.